Thanks for checking out Guideposts with Dr. Tim Stauffer. We wanted to provide a quick introduction to what this podcast is. Tim, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello and welcome to this podcast. I'm Dr. Tim Stauffer. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor and supervisor in the state of Ohio. I also am a counseling professor and work in the counseling field for about the past decade or so. And Sam, you invited me to consider doing a podcast with you. And so tell our audience a bit about you, and then we'll talk more about what's coming up in the episodes ahead.
Yep. I am your friend, and that's, the big benefit of being your friend is I've gotten to pick your brain on lots of things that you are incredibly knowledgeable in that have benefited my life greatly. I am married and I have 2 little boys, and so getting to pick your brain on your expertise, both in your counseling experience and teaching experience, has helped me both in my marriage and in my parenting and as being a man. And so grateful for the conversations we've gotten to have, and was excited about the idea of making them accessible to a wider range of people so that they could benefit as well. Which kind of leads into why are we making this podcast? You have a pretty cool story that I think illustrates why we are creating this.
Sure. I've been working in private practice for about 11 years, and I do a lot of general mental health work, depression, anxiety, etc., relational counseling, marriage counseling. But early in my career, I was getting started and I was hanging out my shingle for the first time. And so I put out this prayer. I prayed this prayer and said, God, I've done everything I know to do to follow your sense of call into the counseling field. You bring the clients you would like me to see. And over time, what many men began to come to me with issues of sexual addiction. And I remember thinking, I don't have the training for this space. And so that led me to pursuing certification as a sexual addiction recovery therapist. And I am now certified with the American Association for Sex Addiction Therapy, and been working in that field for quite some time. One of my friends one day was challenging me at lunch, and he said, Tim, it's like you stand at the bottom of the cliff after people have fallen off, and you're there to help them pick up the pieces and try to put life back together, relationships back together, and figure out how to live again. And then what he said next, I wouldn't say haunted me, but kind of. He said, when are you going to get on the top side of the cliff and help prevent people from falling off in the first place?
Yeah. And
I remember when he said it thinking, I have no idea. Like, prevention is not, I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. And so I kept working in the field for another 5, 6, 7 years. And now when you approached me about making a podcast, it occurred to me, I was like, this is an opportunity to begin to put together and share some of the insights and some of the things that I have learned in working with people that might be helpful in prevention, and to make it accessible to a wider group of people.
That's great. And so what can we expect from this podcast? What are maybe going to be some of the things we're going to talk about, and maybe a little bit, who is this podcast for?
Right. Well, I would say this podcast is for everyone, and we welcome everyone that comes. But if you dial in, it'll probably feel like it's that we're talking to men. And there's an element of like, yes, that's what we are doing. However, we welcome spouses, the people who love men, to come and join the conversation. And it's certainly, we welcome everyone into the audience and into the conversations. But it will largely feel like we're addressing men. I like to think in terms of what kind of man am I going to become? I remember early in my young adult years, I remember praying a prayer and saying, God, take me the long way so that I have the character to sustain your calling on my life. And thinking in terms of, I don't want to just not do something. I want to become the kind of person that doesn't do something. So it's not that I just don't rob a bank. It's that I become the kind of person that doesn't rob a bank.
Yeah. And
the difference is that if I had the opportunity to rob the bank and I know absolutely for sure that I'm not going to get caught, well, then maybe then I'll take the money and run. The question becomes, is that the kind of character we want to have, or do we want to be the kind of person that even if the opportunity presented itself, we'd say, no, won't do it. And I won't do it because it's wrong. I won't do it because it's unethical. I won't do it because it violates my moral, my spiritual, my convictions about what it means to be a good man. And we want to become the kind of men that are honorable, that are loving, that are supporting, that are courageous, that have strength, tenderness, compassion, firmness. We want to be men of character. And so this podcast is going to have speak to lots of different issues, really topics, kind of whatever we want. Like, right. We have a broad range of interests in our lives and conversations and experiences. So I see this podcast as an opportunity for you and I to have real conversation, not scripted ones. So we're not going to be sitting here with some detailed outline of point by point. We're just going to engage in a free flow of conversation, and often we might not know where that's going to go ahead of time. But I would think topics like identity, sexuality, marriage, parenting, identity, all of those would be the kinds of topics we're going to dive into and chat about. And along the way, we may invite some guests to join us if there's someone who we say, oh, we want to interview this person, or that's a great book, and we'd love to chat with the author about it. And we may try to branch out and do more than just conversations between you and I.
Great. Well, we hope that this provided a little bit of clarity as to what this podcast is going to be about, and we hope you check it out.
So. Absolutely. Thanks for dialing in, and look forward to having you in the journey.